muchas gracias por conectarte a Vida In Online. Estamos a tan solo unos minutos de comenzar. Pero antes de, quiero darte un consejo. Ve y toma tu café, tu té y ponte cómodo. Y también comparte con tu familia y amigos para que juntos podamos disfrutar de esta transmisión.
Hola, qué gusto verte conectado aquí en Vida In Online. Estamos a unos minutos de comenzar, así que prepárate, ponte cómodo para que puedas disfrutar de todo lo que tenemos preparado para ti este domingo.
Hey, welcome to Vida In. It's great to be here with you. I'm excited to say hi to you and welcome you. Welcome, Andres. How are you?
Bien, Soraya,
Great,
muy,
Sorai.
muy feliz de
I'm
estar
very
aquí.
excited, happy to be here because it's going to be a great service. Like Andres said, today it's a great service. Amazing because of several reasons. Today is the last Sunday of the month. Time has flown by, but another reason why it's exciting that Sunday. It's because we're starting a new series. This will happen later on, but people are already getting online. Well, let's say hi to them. People from Mexico City, hi, Saltillo, how are you? People from Monterrey, they are already here. How are you? Tell us where are you watching us from? And I also want to say hi to our friends in Santiago de Chile, the church Vertical, also to Santiago, Nuevo León, and more people that are getting online from Guadalajara, Querétaro, from other cities. Even if you're watching us from another country, hey, how are you? It's great to see you. And yesterday there was something great happened in this auditorium in Vida in Monterrey. It was amazing, an amazing experience that we want to share with you. So Andres, what about if we tell them
Así es,
what
ya
happened
ayer
yesterday?
tuvimos un evento, como dice Soraya,
Yesterday we
muy
had an
bonito.
event here at the Vida in Monterrey auditorium. It was all youth experience with
Un
the
mensaje
guys or the kids from Transit
donde
Middle School, Transit
en donde pudimos jugar,
High School, and Living Room
tuvimos
College.
música,
We had
tuvimos
dynamics, games, and a message that really
muchísimas,
challenged us.
muchas de las
Another
personas
great thing
que
was
estaban
that
aquí
some of the
presentes
groups were not here
pero
physically. We just
presencialmente asistieron
recorded
un grupo
here,
pequeño y
but
eso fue lo
the
bonito.
small groups gathered
Podemos platicar muchísimas cosas
digitally. We
y
can tell you a lot of
enseñarles
things and
emocionados
show you
que
how we
solamente
are
lo van a
excited,
entender
but you're not
si ven
gonna
las imágenes.
understand it if you don't see the pictures or the images. So we want to show you some images. I'm going to show them from my cell phone, some things that happened yesterday. We have one of our challenges, the Picasso challenge, the Franco brothers painting and being creative,
Podemos ver el
and
arte
we can see
de
the art.
Kiara.
Look
Qué
at
bárbara.
Kiara's art.
Wow.
Wow, amazing. It was great.
Un mensaje, como les
It
dije,
was a message, as I told you,
muy
that
retador.
really
Y
challenged
lo hizo
us,
de manera
and it
increíble.
ended up
Véanlo, véanlo.
amazingly. Look at Luis with his craziness. Yes, he's always so
Este
creative.
grupo
And
también,
this group
padrísimo.
was
Fue la
great
primera vez que
also.
se
It was
reunieron
the first time that
presencialmente.
they gathered
Vienen
physically.
pasando de primaria
They
a
are
secundaria y en ese
going
momento se
from
conocieron. Hombre,
elementary to
fue algo
middle school,
padrísimo,
and it was the
compartieron
first
un
time
muy buen
they
tiempo.
met. They had pizza and all this, and look, parents made this environment to be more amazing. Even they used a projector so that they could watch our transmission live, and it was awesome. It was a great time where we were able to be connected with our around 70 kids, and the auditorium was empty, only volunteers and part of the staff making this possible. So thanks for this. And from home everyone was connected, and I can continue to sharing the experience, and what Andres and I might say would fall short. So we want to invite a family so that they can share their experience of this event and their experience of having a girl in this virtual time. So let's go with the Cisneros
Tenemos a
families.
familia Cisneros
Welcome,
López.
Cisneros Lopez family. How are you? Great.
Gracias por
Thanks for
compartirnos.
letting us share this
Sí, la verdad es
experience.
que ha sido un tiempo
It's been
muy
a
intenso.
great time because this is a new normal. We are not seeing each other
Estamos
physically,
teniendo
but
Zoom
we are watching each
semana
other
tras
through
semana
Zoom
y ha
week
sido
after
muy,
week.
muy
It's
diferente.
been
¿Qué les,
great, very
cómo ha
different.
sido para
And
ustedes?
how has it
Andrea,
been for you or for Andrea? How has this experience been at home? Andres, we are surprised how Andrea continues to connect now virtually to these meetings. In the past, she didn't want to miss them physically with her friends and the messages and all that, but she now leaves some things aside that might be important to her. But she always is there
es que es
at her
parte de lo que
meetings.
nos gusta
Great.
mucho
This
de
is something
Andrea.
I we love
Me
to
gustaría también
do.
que nos platicaras
And Vero, can you
cómo
tell us
fue
a little
cuando
bit
ustedes estuvieron
about how
presenciales,
these students'
ha
environments
impactado a su
have
familia
impacted your family personally? Well, the impact we've seen in Andrea's life has been great. Also, this impacts us as a family, and when we feel in the midst of difficulties, or Andrea in this moments, she's found mentors that have supported her, encouraged her, invited her to talk to us. So that the fact that she's surrounded by this type of people is something very important that adds value and supports us as a family. Great, great. Is Andrea there with you? Come over, Andrea. How are you? Andrea, tell us what has been your experience in this virtual time and what happened yesterday. Yesterday's event was great. It was very fun for the dynamics, the worship, the message. I think this is one of the reasons why we I love transit so much, because we learn about God in a fun way.
Qué bien. Y bueno,
Wow,
Andrea,
great.
muchísimas gracias por
Thank
contarnos
you
tu
for
testimonio.
sharing with us your
Sabemos
experience.
que estás pero
We have to say
en la
goodbye
computadora,
right now, but if you're in your computer, in your cell phone at home, don't unplug. This is just starting, and if you are in middle school, high school, or university, or you know someone in these stages, follow us on social media. We want to connect to you. We are doing things that are very, very fun.
Está
Connect to the link that you will see here, and you will be able to have very a lot of experiences and meet a lot of people. Thank you. Thank to all the mentors, to everyone who is part of the students ministry. We want to connect to you. We want to be part of your life. At the beginning, I was telling you that today is a very good Sunday for many reasons, but one of them is that today we are starting a new series, a series called Artificial Maturity. So I want to encourage you to continue to be here with us, that you can invite someone to this transmission. I already did. Did you invite someone, Andres? Yes, I invited someone. So great. So stay with us, and I leave you with Roberto. Artificial maturity. I don't know if you knew that the suicide rate, the highest suicide rate we have in Mexico, is in young people from 20 to 24 years old. I didn't know. I don't know if if you knew the second cause of death in kids between 15 and 29 is suicide, and that even suicide recorded in our country have begun with kids as young as 10 years old. And I know when I tell you this, probably if you're a parent, can feel like a lot of tension and worry for you. But I tell you this without mentioning situations like, for example, school dropouts, pregnancies in teenagers, addictions, the issue of alcoholism that is ever growing in middle school kids, depression that mental health experts in our country say will be the fourth wave of this pandemic. The fourth wave of this pandemic will be depression, and the most vulnerable population will be adolescents, teenagers, and young adults. And the consequence is that these suicide rates will increase. And listen, depression is considered or seen as a disability for making the good decisions, for facing life, and all this falls especially on kids and teenagers, that takes them to self injure themselves and things like that. And what I'm telling you right now is something of to which you might say, I didn't connect today to feel like I'm feeling right now, and I get you. But that is our reality. And if you are not a parent, maybe you would think, well, this series or this message or these topics that they are addressing have to do with parents, and I am not, so I'm going to disconnect, or this series is not going to be for me, or this message is not for me. But I ask you to please don't make that mistake, because you are in the middle of a society that is molding a thought which is generating or creating results like the ones you just heard about. And right now, in this life stage you're going through, you might be fighting some battles, fighting for some rights, and or you have your own thoughts and you have to reaffirm them. But it's just a thought that this society or this line of thinking has molded and can lead you to very complicated situations, all the way through them being destructive. So I want to ask you to please remain connected with us. On the other hand, I tell you that Tim Elmore, who is considered an expert in in current generations, on someone I had the honor of meeting a couple of years back in Atlanta, he has or he puts to the table a new concept, what which is interesting, and it's this, and it's what we will be talking about throughout this series: artificial maturity. The concept of artificial maturity has to do with the following, and this is what Tim Elmore tells us. He says, or he talks about children that are overexposed to information, who have not, or who don't have the capability of processing it because of the origin and the type of information. They are overexposed. But on the other hand, they are underexposed to real life experiences which will provide the abilities for tomorrow, they so that they tomorrow will be able to face the life they will have to face. So this overexposure and underexposure creates artificial maturity. Now, this artificial maturity we're talking about, it's not something that is forming in our kids, teenagers. It's something that we see present in youngs and young adults. And I will explain it this way. When we ask questions, and essential questions of life, like, for example, what is the meaning of life? Where do I find true satisfaction? Where do I take my identity from? Which are questions that you may not ask consciously, but that are present in the way we walk this path, in the way we make decisions, which makes us take a lot of mistakes, make us take several paths or relations. It's the meaning of life, satisfaction, identity. And in society, the answers we find are answers that have so little foundation. And I tell you this with a lot of criteria, because I have dedicated to look for the type of answers society is providing to these questions. And when we talk about this, the result of these questions or paths are even destructive. When you start scratching the surface of this kind of questions, what you find is there is a very narcissistic thought behind them. And precisely the fear I have, or the worry I have, is that this generation might end like Narcissus, the Greek mythology character. This guy who was so infatuated with himself, who looked at himself, and one day he was watching himself in the water and he saw himself with so much admiration when looking at himself that he went to kiss the image he saw of himself in the water, and he drowned himself. And my worry as a pastor, as a leader, as a father, is that this generation might end up drowning themselves in themselves and leading them to a misery path in their relationships. And that's my worry and our worry. Tim Elmore talks about a lot of factors that come to unleash this artificial maturity. And I have news for you, complicated news for you if you're a parent It's that if you are a parent, we have a percentage of responsibility, and it's not a small one, it's a big one. Actually, he says that as parents we make a lot of mistakes, and it's not that we are bad and we want to make them, but the time we got to live in and the society we got to live in, these are mistakes that are non-voluntary. And the four more common, Tim Elmore talks about them, and are these. He says we risk too little, the level of priority we have given to security is too high, and we want our kids not to have problems, to be overprotected. And and this topic of the pandemic came to make this even more acute, because we don't want them to have risks. Now think about this. You who are someone, maybe adult or a young adult, imagine trying to do something in life without any risk. That would be impossible. It says that we help too quickly. We want to rescue our kids from any type of problem, pain in school, in relationships, in friendships, and we want to intervene immediately. We praise too easily, and we reward uh, anything. And this type of mistakes we've made are involuntarily creating in our children an artificial maturity. And one of the things I see with a lot of worry is that this artificial maturity unleashes this thought in this generation, a belief that they know everything they need to know, a train of thought that makes them think that they can face life. And if you are young, if you are in those teenage or young years, I don't want you to think at any time that I'm against you. Not at all. Not at all. Actually, I am for you. And I want you to feel that, because my greatest worry is that you can be successful in life. Of course, I'm worried about that. But if you listen to me talking this way, is that because the society we got to live in makes us, or puts us in this position, and makes us or gives us a maturity that's not true. And the implications of this is complicated. And in the midst of all this artificial maturity, one question I ask myself is, how can someone develop, or how will someone develop, who believes talent is what's most important, that the talent they have is more than enough? If someone is good for sports or in speaking or music or whatever they're good at, that's more than enough. How will someone develop with that train of thought? Because what I see in society is there is a cult to talent, a great focus on talent, and talent is just a small part of life. What about character and other topics that are there? And I think to myself, how will someone develop if they place talent so high? What will happen to the person who marries someone else who thinks they deserve, or have a deserving train of thought, someone who will always want their spouse to make them happy? I think, what will happen with someone who marries that way? Even worse, someone who believes marriage is to be happy. How will they face challenges that come tomorrow, the pain, rejection, frustration, betrayal? How will they face it if there is no character or maturity that will help them to face this? Because maturity that is being built is artificial. That is the reason why we are doing this series, and we're talking about artificial maturity, and we will go deep in this topic. Next week we will talk more about this, and then we will invite a person who is an expert, and we will talk with him here, and he will talk to us about real life cases that are being lived around this topic, and how to walk towards a true maturity. And throughout the series, we will talk about practical steps that you and I can apply, and how our church and how we as a church can make build this team with you and work together. Now, if you are a parent and you're listening to all this, you think to yourself, this is important. And I don't have to convince you that this is important, but if you are not a parent, again, maybe you can disengage from this series or this topic, and I ask you to not do it, because in this topic, in this series, from these conversations we're going to have, what will happen is that you, as a kid, as a teenager, as a young person, you will be able to identify things that you are already living, that you are seeing around you. But what's great about this is that you don't won't see what you are already living or seeing, but what's behind it. And this can give you the criteria, so that when you listen to some teacher, a friend, an influencer on social media, you can say, and you can have a more critical thought to then identify this is right or this is wrong. So please connect and stay connected with us. Now, friends, I want to talk to you in what I have left of time about two things. One, something that we will see immediately, and then we'll talk about influences. This is what is most important for us, and I want to make a great emphasis first with you, to you, parents, or who are watching us. If you are in middle school, high school, university, I want you to see this. This is what I believe, and this is what we believe as a church. What's most important, when people ask you what's most important, this is what's most important to us. What's most important to us is that our children have an authentic relationship with God. Not only our children, what's most important is that we all can have an authentic relationship with God. But in the context we are talking about right now, I'm going to emphasize our kids. If you are a kid or a child, you have to have it. And if you are a parent, what's most important is our children have an authentic relationship with God. And I tell you, this is what's most important. And I emphasize it because, in a way, it seems that we don't see this reality. And I tell you this because we have to, if we see where we invest our time, our money, and our effort the most, we see that we want our children to have the best education, the best coaches, the best teachers, the best music, sports teachers, and we try to move and look here and find scholarships for education. But what are we doing about the faith of our kids, when what's most important of all is that our kids can grow with an authentic relationship with God? How is that seen in regards to our resources, time, and efforts? Do you see why it's so important for us to talk about this? And we actually emphasize this word, authentic relationship with God. Why emphasize authentic? Because I see with a lot of pain and worry when people um, have a way of seeing God as a faraway God, a God that is there to point out your mistakes and intervene, a God that comes to take away your fun, a God with whom you wouldn't be able to have fun. And the feeling I see if people is that, at starters, they consider God as a someone far away, and if he exists, he's not close. He's not close to share with me something, but rather to tell me what I'm making a mistake in, highlight that mistake, and it's not the case. That's why we emphasize an authentic relationship with God, because that represents the fact that we need to understand God is a close, tender Father, Heavenly Father, that when you make a mistake, you need to run away, but not away from Him. You need to run towards Him. Because once you understand, every time you make a mistake, you mess up, or you sin, you don't have to hide in shame, but rather you can go to Him and embrace Him, because you find forgiveness in Him. That's a true and a right comprehension of Him. And that's the relationship we want for your children when they think of God. that you can think of God and you can smile and that know that he knows you by name. Now, something important of what I'm telling you is this. Talking about this topic in a way could see as something merely spiritual. And I don't want you to think that this is a spiritual issue alone, because the practical implications of this are huge. Let me explain what I mean. Listen, the way you see yourself, the way you relate with yourself, the way you relate to other people, the way you interpret life, whatever life throws you, money, studies, the way you interpret life, the way you relate with yourself and with others, comes from your beliefs. So, what we believe, or that in which we believe, will determine how we will behave. And in this, we see evidence that this is not something merely spiritual, but that there is a huge practical thing when we talk about having an authentic relationship with God, because this is what it represents. When you believe in God, or in what you might believe, but we're talking about an authentic relationship with God, where you put your trust, your confidence, will determine how you will behave. It will determine the decisions you will make in life. Decisions like, for example, what will I do for a living? And I don't know if you have connected this, but if you are a young adult or a teenager, when you are going to make a decision regarding what you will do in life, if you are placing your trust in God, if you have built an authentic relationship with God, that relationship will impact the decision of what I will do in life. With whom will I marry? That is incredibly important. And I want to tell you this: being able to build an authentic relationship with God can help you to identify destructive patterns in a person that you might like. And once you see these patterns, you will say, whoa, 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 I will take a step back, because getting in a relationship with a person that has destructive patterns, insecurities, addictions, I don't know, bad anger management, having or marrying a person like that will lead to a life full of misery. And when you build a relationship with Jesus or with God, you will be able to identify this type of patterns. This is why I tell you this has practical implications. Again, I think, how can you be able to face pain, failure, rejection, the times you make mistake? How will you face it? When I have a relationship that gives me tools to face it, how will you face moral challenges? How will our children do that? And when someone comes and offers them drugs or some kind of a bad business, where will they draw their no from? Not only to express it, but the strength to endure with that no. How will you manage social pressures? How will our kids manage sexuality? How will you handle your sexuality? What will you think about money? Will you see money as something that is simply to have and to retain and to achieve and to manage? Or will you see it as someone to give and to share with other people? Tomorrow, when you once you are married and you have an opportunity or the possibility of being unfaithful, a possibility rather than an opportunity, or that your children the day of tomorrow are married and have the possibility of being unfaithful, how will they react? How will they respond? Maybe you say, Roberto, I love him or her and I will remain in that relationship. I cannot tell you the number of people that have come to our care network, the care network that we have for people, where they have or where they arrive with their broken hearts, talking about what infidelity did in their marriages. And not because they loved each other, because they did, but they lacked a moral compass that helped them that would help them remain in the right path. This is why we are convinced of this, that the most important of all is for our children to have an authentic relationship with God, because in Him we will find the answers to the most important facts and issues in life. And in those answers, there is a total and complete guarantee. This is why we say this is the most important thing, because now that I can present this to you, or after talking about this, I'm going to talk about influences, because this is essential for this series. And one of the first things I want to tell you about influence is that no one has more potential to influence your children than you. No one has more potential to influence your children than you. And obviously I'm talking here to parents. Now, I don't know how aware we are of this, that we have the greatest potential of influencing our children. And listen, we are highlighting the word potential, and I am highlighting it because I am not taking for granted that the greatest influence will come from you or me as a parent. We have a great potential, and we have it because no one has the amount of time and exposure as we do with our children, at least when they are a certain age. After teenage years and once they're young adults, they're probably more exposed to other relationships or more time with other people. But we as parents have the most amount of time with them. Therefore, we have a great potential, but it's potential, it's not definite. And that potential can be turned into a great influence or a real influence as we are present, but not only present, but when we have a presence with quality, when we have interactions with our children that are of quality, when we build relationships with them, then we will live a great influence and we will build a great influence. Otherwise, that influence will fall on someone else. And I don't know who we can give that influence to, but we as parents have the greatest potential for influencing them. And when I tell you this, I don't say it because we as parents want to impress our children with our abilities to educate them. It's about we wanting to impress them with the love and the nature of God, and that through the relationship we build with them, they can see a God and a love and an essence that is amazingly great for them. That is the proposal or the thought that dictates what we believe that relationship should be. Now, in our job as parents, we realize certain things. One thing we realize in regards to influence is this: parents are not the only influence our children need. And if you are a child, a son and a daughter, you know that better than us. But we lack a little consciousness or clarity in regards to this, because we are not the only influence our children need. Actually, if you are parent of a teenager, you have already realized this, right? I have my daughter who's 15 years old, and I clearly know that my influence is not enough. She needs other influences, other voices near her that will definitely, in some cases, uh, will be of more impact than mine. And that's not bad. You already know this. You've discovered this already. It's something you have already realized, because at a point your children manifested some sort of interest for music, for sports, or for something, and you look for a coach, a teacher, someone to help you, right? That's where you see this, that I'm telling you, our children need more influences around them, and they need positive influences, good influences. There is a principle in this topic about influence that is a guiding principle for us. Two people combined are better off than one. And the key word here is that these influences have to be combined. This week, I was reading something about the pulling horses. Pulling horses are horses that have the capacity of pulling a large amount, a huge weight. Actually, one of these horses can pull even 3,600 kilos. And when you put together two pulling horses, if one pulls 3,600 kilos, I would think one is 3,600, two would be able to pull 7,200 kilos. But what's interesting is that when you see two pulling horses together with a load, they can pull all the way to 11,000 kilos. Sorry, and when they are trained or capable, or when they are put to work together, they are able to pull all the way to 14,500 kilos. What's interesting is one horse can pull 3,600. You would think two, 7,200, but two can actually pull all the way to 14,500 kilos. And that's the impact of creating this sort of pull. And it comes from combining influences, not having one horse on one side and another one in another, but together. And Solomon, who was one of the wisest men in history, expresses it this way. And he says, two people are better than one, for they can help each other succeed. And what Solomon is saying is this: two people or two influences combined can do more together than separated. If you put one influence on one side and another one here, there will be an impact, but the greatest impact comes when you combine influences. And we are talking about this because when talking about the upbringing of your children, if we are intentional in using it, the result is amazing. And this is what we believe and what we want. What we want is this, and we are clear on this. You are that influence, that great influence, and you have the potential of being the great influence as a parent, and we are clear on that. And the church is another influence. Now, you can have an influence, we have another influence, but if we are able to combine our influences, become allies, and work together, the result regarding this authentic relationship with God is something we lose sight of. And let me present it this way. Here we have a red circle. On the other side, we have a yellow circle, and these circles represent the following: family and church. Red is family, the love of family, and yellow is the light of the church, or the light the church has within its mission, which is lighting the path to God. When family is doing what they have to do in regards to developing the faith of their children, and the church is doing their job, yes, there's a result. Each one is doing something. We say something at church, in family you say something else. But when we combine the two influences, the impact is much, much greater, because two combined influences have a greater impact. Actually, this represents our strategy when talking about family. Being able to take the family and the church as allies, and knowing how to give this education or this formation to our children. And you want the church to be your ally when talking about the upbringing of your children. And when I talk about upbringing, I am referring specifically to faith. Why do you want the church to be your ally? Because Jesus, 2,000 years ago, he was walking with his friends, and they were on a trip, and suddenly Jesus asked, who do people say I am? And some say you're Zachariah, you're John the Baptist, or different prophets. And Jesus asked, and who do you think I am? And Peter said, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And at that moment, Jesus said, oh my God, Peter. Oh, Actually, Peter was astonished, and this is what literally Jesus replied: "You are blessed, Simon, son of John, because my Father in heaven has revealed this to you. You did not learn this from any human being. Now I say to you that are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and all powers of hell will not conquer it. The powers of hell will not conquer the church is something I love, and I love to read this 2,000 years later, or 2,000 years after Jesus said it, because throughout history we can see the way the church as a movement, not an institution, as a movement, has faced persecution, challenges, amazing things, but the church has remained because Jesus said nothing would prevail or conquer it. Actually, nowadays, seeing what we are seeing or what we're living and doing what we're doing in this format is part of what Jesus affirmed, that nothing would be able to prevail or to conquer the church. And my reflection is this: what institution movement can assure you that will remain forever? Because the church will remain forever. And Jesus said it. And when you want to build an alliance with someone, and I'm not saying education is wrong. We want our children to be well educated. But when talking about life, the church becomes that great alliance, or the best alliance you and I can have. This is why we are so committed to this, and that's why we invest so much in this. Since Vida In started in Saltillo around 15 years ago, our bet in family environments was the greatest, and it will always be. And what will come in our new Saltillo campus in Mexico City last year, that the thing about family environments was great. It was of great importance for us in terms of thinking and on money. Here in Monterrey, once you are able to come to our campus, you will be able to see the environment we are creating, because they are the largest spaces that we have in our campus here in Monterrey. And with that, it's clear that we are betting on the family. We want our children, your children, our children to remain connected. This is why when you have children that are in elementary school or in kindergarten, we show them a video that can engage them, and then we talk to them about a principle that's present and that has to do with a Bible principle, and then they talk with their mentors. And if you have elementary transit, or if you have middle school or high school kids which are our transit and inside out environments, we give them topics that are very important for them, and then they talk with mentors to talk about them and how does that look in the challenges they're going through. This is why we've been doing live transmissions, live broadcasts. Actually, they have been amazing because we want that relationship to be built between your children and the church. And if you are one of these kids, we want you to be related to these environments. Now, what I want to ask you to do is, and especially you as a parent, I want to ask you this. I want to ask you to do all that's possible, all that's in your hands. And when I say all, it's all that's necessary, all that's possible, so that your children can be part of that alliance with the church. Not only that you can make an effort, but in practice, in a practical sense, that, for example, if you have children in elementary school, sit with them and watch that video. Do it and ask them, what did you like about the video? What did you like? What didn't you like? Be with them. And then give them a space for them to be connected with their mentors. And if you have middle school kids or high school kids, I don't think you can do much about by telling them to see something because they're growing up, but you can encourage them. You can inspire them to connect, make sure that you have good internet and give them their space. Maybe even after the conversation, their life, maybe you can go to them and ask them, what did you like? What didn't you like? What did you think of it? And talk about what they saw. That's our alliance. It requires an effort on your part and on ours, and we are doing it, and we want to continue to do it. I told you I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I'm happy. I'm glad that she has her mentors and people who have great influence in their life, and they come from church, and I am calm with that. And I'm not talking about about this as a pastor, but as a dad. My son, who is 11 years old, also has people who influences him, and we every night read a book that was given to him by his mentor. And I could tell you lots of his stories about this, but I want to tell you, do everything that's necessary alliance for that alliance to be lived in a real way. If you are a teenager or a high school student, I want to encourage you to be present in our environments, in the lives we are doing, in the conversations we are having. We will make an effort for them to be entertaining, for them to be good. And if they bore you, tell us, because that way we will bring you conversations that are relevant to you. And today I want to ask you one thing more, and I know I'm asking a lot from you. Go to this link that's on the screen, and if you're a parent, fill out the information so that we can provide you information about the different environments, about different things that are taking place in the environments, the family environments that we have in our church. I want to ask you this because our commitment is this. Our commitment is that we won't allow our generation to be lost in influences that are not the right ones, but that we can rescue, in a way, this generation and provide them an authentic relationship with God.
Antes de hablar, cantaste sobre mí. Has sido tan bueno para mí. Antes de respirar, soplaste vida en mí. Has sido tan bueno para mí. Oh, tu amor me envuelve, me sostiene, amor sin condición. Me persigue y deja las 99 y va por mí. No puedo ganarlo ni merecerlo, tu amor se entregó por mí. Oh, tu amor me envuelve, me sostiene, amor sin condición. Hey, yeah. Aún lejos de ti, tu amor luchó por mí. Has sido tan bueno para mí. Cuando no vi mi valor, te entregaste por mí. Has sido tan bueno para mí. Oh, tu amor me envuelve, me sostiene, amor sin condición. Me persigue y deja las 99 y va por ir. No puedo ganarlo ni merecerlo, tu amor se entregó por mí. que no escales para encontrarme a mí. No hay pared que no derrumbes, mentira que no rompas para encontrarme a mí. No hay sombra que no alumbres, monte que no escales para encontrarme a mí. No hay pared que no derrumbes, mentira que no rompas para encontrarme a mí. No hay sombra que no alumbres, monte que no escales para encontrarme a mí. No hay pared que no derrumbes, mentira que no rompas para encontrarme a mí. No hay sombra que no alumbres, monte que no escales para encontrarme a mí. No hay pared que no derrumbes, mentira que no rompas para encontrarme a mí. Oh, tu amor me envuelve, me sostiene, amor sin condición. Me persigue y deja las 99 y va por mí. No puedo ganarlo ni merecerlo, tu amor se entregó por mí. Oh, tu amor me envuelve, me sostiene, amor sin condición.
Before singing this last song, I want to share with you an experience I had a couple days back. And it's that in the place where I'm working right now, we were told that some of us would not be working anymore, and they would tell us during the week. As the days went by, I felt anxious, fearful. I started feeling anxiety because of all which that meant for me and my family. And I decided to set aside a time for talking with God and praying. And as a flash, it came to my mind a couple of words that a lot of that some time ago I hadn't read in the Bible. This is found in Isaiah 41:10, and it reads this: Don't be fearful because I am with you. Don't worry because I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you, and I will hold you with my victorious right hand. When those words came to my mind, it was a reminder that God is with me, that God, beyond any difficult circumstance, He holds me with His righteous hand. And if you feel identified with this, which I felt in this difficult time, I want to remind you that this God who created you, who was capable of giving his only son for you, promised to hold you with his hand and be with you till the end of time.
Tras la tormenta que me inunda de ansiedad, llama una calma que se encuentra solo en ti. Y ahora cubre todas mis imperfecciones. Jesús, tu presencia es la paz de mi existir. Yo quiero estar aquí cuando cantas sobre mí. Solo aquí en la espera, no me afano por el mañana, no me preocupo en lo que no puedo controlar. Toda mi atención en la gloria de este momento. Jesús, tu presencia es la paz de mi existir. Yo quiero estar aquí cuando cantas sobre mí. Solo quiero estar contigo. Me envuelve tu gran amor, tu grandeza me asombra, Dios. Solo quiero estar contigo. De tu fuego, Señor, hoy consuma mi interior, por la gloria de tu presencia. ¿Qué más puedo anhelar? De tu fuego, Señor, hoy consuma mi interior, por la gloria de tu presencia. ¿Qué más puedo anhelar? De tu fuego, Señor, hoy consuma mi interior, por la gloria de tu presencia. ¿Qué más puedo Yo quiero estar aquí cuando cantas sobre mí. Solo quiero estar contigo. Me envuelve tu gran amor, tu grandeza me asombra, Dios. Solo quiero estar contigo.
I don't know if you think the same as I, but it's amazing the capacity music has to connect us, not only with our emotions, but with our Heavenly Father. This is why we do music and good music here at Vida In. What I want to do to close this meeting is to take 1 minute and show you, actually read to you a message we received from one of the persons that one person that attends one of our small groups, and online groups, and she wrote to a member of our Vida in Saltillo staff, and this is what she wrote talking about her experience in the group. This woman um, has only been connected with our church during the pandemic, And this is what she said: "Thank you for giving us of your time, telling the leader. I am very grateful for what you're doing and for what the church is doing, because you have been walking with me through all this difficult family time. It's been positive for my family and I. It was a process that at the beginning I didn't understand, but like Jair said in last Sunday's message, sometimes expectations lead us to frustration, and this has helped me to develop patience and a stronger faith. And I wanted to share this with you because this message that narrates a little bit of the experience of this woman is the reason why we do the church, is the reason why we do everything we do, the reason why you and I are making a difference, removing obstacles so that everyone can connect in a personal relationship with Jesus Christ without all the religiousness, without prejudice in our environments, and in this case, online. And I want to take a moment to thank you, because it's because of your generosity, your financial generosity, which allows us to continue to witness stories like this. Thank you. Thank you for continuing to be part of this vision. And finally, I want to encourage everyone who's watching us and who has not had the experience of being part of a small group. We believe circles are better than rows, and faith grows in circles. And next Sunday, September 7th, we will launch a new season of short term groups, means weekly gatherings, about 10 to 12 weeks, with different topics, groups that have to do with marriages, finances, or talking, or you taking advantage of what of today's topic, children, upbringing your children. Right now, you will see a link that you can click at the end of the meeting. There will be a team there waiting for you for answering your questions, and that you so that you can participate of a small group. I only will say goodbye, wishing you a great week, and don't miss next week the part two of this series, artificial maturity. Share it on your social media, and let's continue to make together an extraordinary church. See you next Sunday. Bye bye.